You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Hey everybody, it's Tyler Mon. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We had a bit of an audio issue yesterday with our recording, so for a few segments today, there's going to be a slight echo behind some of my audio. Our apologies for that. We're aware of it, and next week we will be back to 100% and normal and all that. And you know, it's we're getting in toward the dog days of the season. Sometimes you go into a slump for a day, so our apologies, but we're aware. Just wanted to make you aware before we get into this one. And with that, as always, we thank you immensely for tuning into the Show Before the Show podcast, and episode number 112 is coming up right now. An email leading into this episode today, Sam wrote out episode 100 and TB12. Is that a Tom Brady reference?
Of course it's a Tom Brady reference. Because I know nothing gets under your skin more than reminding you of which team won the Super Bowl this year.
I met Bill Belichick last week, and he shot me down for an off-the-record interview request. This is a true story. It's a true story.
You off-the-record interview request?
Yeah. So, backstory, Bill Belichick is very good friends with the head coach of the University of Denver men's lacrosse program, of which I am the radio broadcaster in my other life. It's very strange. But the other day, they're practicing the Final Fours, Gillette Stadium, whatever, and out walks a dude. In case you're wondering, this is all 100% true. It was May, whatever. He's wearing a cutoff Patriots sweatshirt in the middle of the football offseason for no reason. So Belichick walks out, goes to the 50-yard line. He's talking to the head coach of the team I work for. He comes off, and I asked the head coach at DU, I had the media relations guy ask, like, would it be cool if I went up to Coach Belichick and asked him just some questions about how he views you as a head coach and what makes head coaches successful, yada, yada. Thought it'd be fascinating. Went up to him, introduced myself, shook his hand, asked him, would you be cool if I asked you just a few questions, just a conversation about your friendship with Bill Tierney is the name of the Denver head coach. And he said, no, I appreciate it, though. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, but thanks and have a good day. I mean, he was actually cordial about it, which I'll give him the credit for, but like, come on, man. So all of my feelings are justified about you and your people, Sam.
The man has a shtick, and he's going to stick to the shtick.
But if he's talking about a friend, I'm not asking him to talk about himself. I wasn't throwing out deflated football questions.
I am on your side. Let's get that straight. I am on your side. I am a journalist first. I think everybody should be open about everything, and all interview requests should be answered, and all that kind of stuff. I am on your side before you lambast me and my region.
Your people, Sam.
Yeah.
I think that's when I sunk myself. I think when I said I'm Denver's radio guy, I should have just said I'm with Denver, and maybe he would have been a little bit more not us against the world type of thing. But like, come on, man. I'm not asking about Spygate or Deflategate or why you're wearing that godforsaken sweatshirt in the middle of May.
Again, the man has a fashion stick. The man has brands,
He's true to the brand.
Yeah.
Whatever. So anyway, hey, howdy, everybody. Welcome in. It is the 112th episode of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. He is Sam Dykstra. I am Tyler Mon. We're talking all good things minor league baseball, and we're at the end of May. We're recording this on May 31st, so it is the final and only full month of just full season teams in minor league baseball. Short season teams get started in just a few weeks, which is insane, but we're ready for it. We're excited for the full slate of minor league baseball action. It always feels a little incomplete without the short season leagues at times, and I know any one of our writers who is listening to this right now is like, what are you talking about? Shut up.
Just spike their phone.
Exactly.
Or whatever listening device they have. And
our workload kind of increases a little bit.
Who are you wishing all these other leagues onto us for?
Man, I love those happy league stories.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's more comfortable just to do this on a Wednesday again.
Yeah, no, that's true.
The last couple ones we've had on Tuesday, and everybody who listened last week realized we did a whole segment on Anthony Alford only to have him suffer a wrist injury that's going to keep him out a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the game. That's how our schedules line up and all that kind of stuff. But this time we're as close to publishing date as we can possibly get. So hopefully nothing happens to anybody that we're about to talk to, in which we have to insert more stuff this week. But yeah, we're back on Wednesday schedule, so it should be a normal pod today.
Fingers crossed. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Show Before the Show podcast, wherever you found us. We appreciate you joining us on this week's edition. And you can find us at iTunes and on the Stitcher app, wherever else you download your podcast, and give us a rating and a review and a subscription. And also, you can catch up on podcast episodes from 1 through 111 there and at MILB.com/podcast. You can find Sam on Twitter. He is at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon, and with no further ado, we'll dive right into 3 strikes for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show. And we'll kick things off in the Houston Astros organization, where it seems like if you were a prospect last week, you just had a really good week if you were in the Astro system. Like, everybody in the Astro system had a really good week. And maybe first and foremost is Kyle Tucker, who's the number 2 prospect in the Houston organization, who, along with number 26 Astros prospect Jason Martin, are moving on up the chain to AA Corpus Christi. Those moves announced just yesterday on Tuesday. Kyle Tucker has started the season very, very strong at the Class A advanced level. A 288, 379, 554 slash line. That's a 932 OPS. Of his 51 hits so far this season, 25 have been for extra bases. He's driven in 43 runs, and he has scored 31. And as a young guy, Kyle Tucker's making the jump to AA at 20 years old. He was, of course, the Astros' first-round pick back in 2015, the younger brother of Preston Tucker, who is now with the AAA Fresno Grizzlies in the Houston system as well. This is exciting, though. For the Astros, we know that they are not afraid to challenge guys at higher levels if they are excelling at lower levels. And for Kyle Tucker, making a jump to AA at 20 is really exciting in that system.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was kind of out of the blue the way this came. I mean, for all the reasons Tyler mentioned, he's certainly had a strong season with Bowie's Creek. One of the things I love about just his statistical line, but also kind of his skill set, is that he had 9 homers and 13 stolen bases. He was right up against Scott Kingery, who's somebody I'll talk about later, in terms of, Scott Kingery with Reading is the only minor leaguer right now with double-digit homers and steals. He's got 16 homers, 12 steals. With his next homer, Kyle Tucker will join him in that group. So he's a guy who's got pretty good speed, pretty good power, more power than speed, I would say, but it's certainly not showing up that way so far in the Carolina League. But for all the reasons Tyler mentioned, he's only 20. He gets the bump to the Texas League where, when I was writing up the story on this promotion yesterday, I found out Luis Urias is the only younger regular position player in the Texas League this year, which is kind of fascinating. Tucker, this is just his second full season. He was coming out of high school, so to get to AA is more in your second season is more of a thing we think of with college guys, not necessarily high school guys like him. But like Tyler mentioned, the Astros kind of have a history of doing this with the high school prospects they really, really like. I'll kind of remind you that Alex Bregman was a different story last year, but they moved him up pretty quickly once Carlos Correa showed that he could be healthy and good again. They moved him up pretty quickly in 2015. He only got 29 games at AA Corpus Christi before they bumped him up to AAA Fresno, and then he was in the majors later that year. So if players hit their benchmarks in that system, they're going to move them. And the one thing that's good about Tucker is that he's played all 3 outfield positions this year. I think they wanted to get as much out of him in center field as he could. If you've ever watched him play center field, he's kind of a little too gangly for the position. It's not exactly something we typically think of with center fielders being 6'4", 190 like he is. He can cover the ground okay, but he's not an elite center fielder by any means, so he's probably more stuck to a corner position. He's going to hit well enough to make that worth it. He's going to be tested against AA arms. He's probably going to go up against guys with major league experience for the first time in a non-rehab setting. So, this will be a fascinating test for him. The Astros think he can certainly take it on. He may be young, but if he's performed like he has at Carolina and takes that next step, it'll be a really, really interesting one. He's listed right now as MLB.com's number 30 overall prospect. With the season he was having, there was certainly potential for growth there, especially with graduations coming up. He did nothing to lose that status, only to help it. And if he can take on Double A in the same way he's done Class A Advanced, don't be surprised if he's top 25, top 20 by the end of the year.
Kyle Tucker moving up to the Double-A Corpus Christi Hooks, and it seems pretty cool and very possible that he and his brother Preston could be playing on the same roster, maybe not this year, but in the future with Triple-A Fresno or elsewhere in the system. Of course, Preston Tucker has already had some big league time, but is with that Triple-A Fresno team right now, which is a very talented roster. And it's kind of funny, with the Astros system, we talked for so long. It feels like the first 2 years of this podcast, we spent almost exclusively talking about the Astros system, and then it kind of transitioned into the Cubs system, but it was so loaded for so long, and you feel like, oh, well, the well has probably gone dry because so many of those guys have graduated. It hasn't. That system is still really loaded.
Yeah, no, definitely. I still want to see something out of Daz Cameron, who's kind of the shine's kind of come off, but they took Forrest Whitley last year with a 17th overall pick. He looks like he has the potential for lots of growth. 36 strikeouts in 25 2/3 innings this year at Class A Quad Cities. Derek Fisher is a guy who is begging for a major league spot.
Yeah.
He's hitting .335 this year in 49 games, 13 homers at AAA Fresno. Where he's going to play in Houston is anybody's idea. The Astros, probably Major League Baseball's best team this year. If anybody's trade bait, it's probably him. He's in that kind of mix with Jamer Candelario in terms of guys who really need a new organization because they really need major league time and to get tested there. So and we can keep going down the list. David Paulinho just got called up. He's another top 100 arm. Francis Martez is not had necessarily the greatest year at AAA Fresno. Certainly struggled with control, but his stuff is top notch when everything's clicking. Again, we can go down the list. I really like Franklin Perez as well, but yeah, as much as we think this Astro system has taken a step back, it really hasn't, just because a lot of its top-notch prospect talent graduated. It took a step back for all the right reasons.
Right.
And there's still more room for growth from there, and that should be downright frightening for anybody in the American League.
Yeah, Daz Cameron, who was joined at the hip really with Kyle Tucker in the early stages of their careers. They debuted together. They were drafted with Tucker in the first round and Cameron in the competitive balance round in 2015. But this year so far, 42 games for Class A Quad Cities for Cameron. 182, 259, 331 is his slash line. So a bit of a struggle. But again, a guy who's only 20 years old. You look at somebody like that and you think to yourself, well, he's 20 years old. He's in full season ball. Still plenty of time to get it figured out. That shows you just how impressive this ascent is from Kyle Tucker, who is headed up to the Double-A Corpus Christi Hooks. Strike two this week, Sam. May is in the books as of a few hours from now. Players of the month for May, there were a lot of guys who had really impressive months. Who are you taking as your most impressive this month?
The guy I want to feature for my player of May, as it were, is just all sorts of reasons why he deserves this spot, but it's just been such a fascinating year for Scott Kingery in the Philly system. I mentioned him in the first part. The fact that he's had 16 homers, 12 stolen bases this year for Reading, is big. He's no longer just a guy who can steal a bunch of bases. He stole 30 bases last year in his first full season. Now he's stolen 12 this year, but he's added pop. And I think everybody who's asked him this, I know Chris Tripodi has talked to him. We had an Eastern League notebook on him this week. It's all, what are you doing to add to your power? And he's really said nothing. It's not something he's aimed to do. It's not like he tried to add muscle. It's not like he thought it was a part of his game that really needed flexing. It's just kind of developed naturally for him. But what's fascinating for me, I'll go through his May stats just to give you a reason why I chose him for this spot. He's batting .336 with a .392 on-base percentage, a .689 slugging, so that's a 1.081 OPS. 10 homers in May alone. This is a guy who only hit, he hit 5 home runs all of last season in 131 games. He's doubled up that total in May alone. 10 homers, 6 doubles, 3 triples in 28 games for Double-A Reading. But here's what sticks out to me, because last year when we were talking about the Rhys Hoskins, Dylan Cousins kind of home run race, a lot of it came down to the fact that, especially with Cousins, their home road splits were so out of whack. Yes, this is great that the two best home run hitters in minor league baseball are in Reading, but Reading's First Energy Park, or First Energy Stadium, is such a hitter's haven that you can almost predict that the minor league leader in home runs is going to come from that park, maybe that or somewhere in the Cal League like Lancaster. But for Kingery, his splits are actually better away from Reading than they are at Reading. His 16 homers on the year, perfectly divided, 8 at home, 8 on the road. His OPS at home is 998. His OPS on the road is 1.112. Again, that's pretty close. It's not like I would say he's definitively a better hitter on the road, but the fact that Reading is supposed to be such a good spot for slugging, for home runs, and for him to split it as well as he has just makes him all the more fascinating a player. We don't have that caveat with him that we had with Hoskins and Cousins. I think with Hoskins, he's answering all the questions anyways this year at Lehigh Valley. Cousins not having quite as good a year. The power is still there. But we're seeing some of the others' numbers drop in his first taste of AAA. But with Kingery, what he is showing is something to build on, not only in June, not only in July, going forward from this month, but also just in terms of his overall prospect profile. He becomes such a more fascinating prospect in a system that was already loaded with a bunch of them.
I'm going to go with Matt Chapman with the AAA Nashville Sounds in the Oakland Athletics Organization. He's the number 4 ranked A's prospect. And Matt Chapman's month of May has been fantastic after a very abbreviated month of April. Coming out of camp and getting into the start to the season, it was a very abbreviated start. We actually talked about this a few weeks ago with Matt. It was a wrist injury, a left wrist injury. So he missed all but 7 games in April, but then comes back in May. And you kind of worry about that, wrist injuries, especially with power hitters, if it's a Hammett thing or if it's something like that, which in this case it was not for Matt Chapman, but comes back in 29 games, 11 home runs and 20 runs batted in, a slash line of 272, 361, 670 for a 1031 OPS for Matt Chapman. In addition to his 11 homers, 4 doubles, 2 triples, he's just crushing the ball all over the place. And really it speaks to a wider thing with the Nashville Sounds. These numbers continue to blow my mind with Nashville. In the month of April, the Sounds played 21 games as an offensive unit. They batted 264 with a 733 team OPS. They hit 18 home runs, and they scored 84 runs in total in 21 games in April. In May, they hit 46 home runs and scored 153 runs in 30 games. So granted, they played 9 more games. They've scored exponentially more. They've been more productive in terms of just being able to get guys around the base paths, on the homer totals have been insane for that team. Matt Chapman has hit 11 this month. Renato Nunez hit 9. Matt Olson hit 9. So that team has really come along, and their starting pitching has been really good too. But Matt Chapman, like I said, it's a bit of a worry when it's something like a wrist for a power hitter, and early on in a season, you never know just how quickly the recovery is going to come. But for Matt Chapman, he jumped right back in, and he has been terrific for the AAA Nashville Sounds this month. And as Sam put it in Toolshed this week, it's not really that difficult to see him figuring out a way into the Oakland lineup before the end of this season is wrapped up. There's a lot of really exciting power bats that are nearing the major league level that are right now at AAA in that Oakland organization. That Nashville team, I think I wrote 6 stories on that Nashville team in May alone.
Didn't you call yourself the new Nashville Sounds?
Yeah, I'm basically the beat writer for the Sounds now. And they've got things to worry about in Nashville. The Tennessean, they got the Preds in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's okay. We're writing about the Sounds like every night. So if you're a Tennessean, if you're a Nashvillian, just head over to MILB.com for your friendly neighborhood Nashville Sounds beat writer.
Yeah,
that's me.
Something to read between periods.
Exactly.
Something to watch between, or to read about between watching PK Subban highlights.
Right. Yeah. No. It's it's good to break up the tension of waiting around for the next period to start in the Cup Finals. So those are our players of the month for the month of May, and that'll bring us to strike 3. Which there's been so much discussion around the baseball world this year about fly ball rates. This is a conversation that I think has been brewing in the baseball community for, let's say, 5 years or so, with the Ryan Parkers of the world, the swing gurus, the guys who have been instilling a new philosophy, not really a new philosophy, but kind of a rejuvenated philosophy of hit the ball in the air, hit the back net of the cage, do the things that you want to do when you're a baseball player because they're fun. It's fun to hit line drives. It's fun to crush a ball to the wall. It's fun to hit homers. And not only that, but it's generally pretty productive. We've heard so much about that at the major league level this year, that there's been so much emphasis on guys getting lift and hitting the ball in the air, that has started to be a conversation in the minor leagues as well. The thing that I always come back to, a couple of years ago, I wrote a story on Chris Bryant and Joey Gallo when they were still the top 2 power prospects in minor league baseball and how they got to that stage. And it was due in large part to the fact that Chris Bryant's dad, when they were kids, taught them both how to hit from an old Ted Williams book that spoke of meeting a ball on an uphill swinging plane that matches the downhill plane with which that ball is coming into the plate. So that idea of getting lift and hitting the ball in the air been around for quite some time. Ted Williams had a pretty successful career employing that philosophy, but now we've heard about this at like every level of baseball. And Sam mentioned Derek Fisher early on in 3 Strikes today. Derek Fisher, just 2 nights ago, I had a conversation with Derek Fisher in which he said that's something that I really try to embrace. In spring training, we talked a lot about hitting the ball in the air more, and that's something that I'm trying to get in as part of my swing, and I feel like it started to be really productive for me. So it's no longer a trend. I mean, this is really a full-blown phenomenon in baseball right now. How do you view this at this point? Because we see a lot of guys having a lot of success with it. We also see there are certain guys who are you get, I think, a little bit too much under it, so to speak, which is kind of a literal and a figurative term in this regard, in which guys who are hitting the ball in the air, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you're hitting it too much in the air. Sometimes you're having very unproductive at-bats in which you're popping up on the infield, that type of stuff. So it is definitely a double-edged sword, but how do you look at this?
I mean, it makes sense on its face in terms of, just getting the ball in the air. I remember, I think it was Daniel Murphy talked about this a little bit in terms of, ground balls are going to result in outs more often. You're giving the defense a chance to get you out. Get the ball in the air. He was more talking about line drives, I think, especially the way Daniel Murphy hits, the way we know he hits. Just send it into the air. That's probably going to add, we talk so much about exit velocity now. If you're going to make that exit velocity last more, it's going to make more difficult to hit. But not only that, we're talking about getting the ball in the air, giving it a chance. For some of these power guys, you mentioned Joey Gallo. I think I did a story last week on Brett Cumberland in the Brave system, which kind of led to this discussion and me having these thoughts about this. But Joey Gallo and Ryan Schimpf are 2 of the major league leaders right now in terms of fly ball rates and getting the ball in the air. And what do we think about Ryan Schimpf and Joey Gallo right now? We think about lots of power, and we also think about very low batting averages. And that's part of the thing I brought up with Cumberland was just the idea of, at the time, he was hitting in the 100s in April. He always felt like it was going to come around, and it was starting to when we had talked. Now, last week, he was the South Atlantic League Player of the Year. Now he's hitting 277. He gets on base a ton. He's hitting 463, but he also has 8 homers and 11 doubles. So, 19 of his 33 hits this year have gone for extra bases. That is because he is one of the minors' best players at getting the ball in the air. He is giving himself a chance to get extra bases every time. You're not going to get extra bases if you're just rolling over the ball every time. It seems like such a simple thing to think about, trying to get the ball in the air, just do that and you'll be fine, get yourself a chance. But I think for a long time, the thought process was just make good contact. Try to do that. Just try see where the ball is coming. Just try to hit it as hard as you can. And now we're starting to think about different swing paths, like you mentioned with Derek Fisher, what kind of effect that can have, launch angles, what that can do. So not only just getting the ball in the air, but making sure you're not shooting it straight up in the air, that kind of thing. It's definitely changing the way we think about the game. I mean, the reason why I wrote this Brett Cumberland story is because Fangraphs now has batted ball data for the entire minor leagues. I haven't been able to find that usually anywhere else in terms of percentages. And it's just much more fascinating. I did a story a couple weeks ago on Max Pentecost. He's having a better year because he's not hitting the ball on the ground as much. His averages are going up. His slugging is going up, all that kind of stuff. It's just another tool we all have. How else teams are looking at this in terms of the minors. I mean, Tyler said he's had discussions with people about it. I've had discussions with people about it. It's certainly changing. But one thing that's really interesting to me that we had at the majors, and Cumberland mentioned it, is this role of kind of private hitting coaches. He brought up Craig Wallenbrock, who's if you've heard about the fly ball revolution before, his name has come up with J.D. Martinez, who went from kind of a light hitting prospect in the Astros system, was eventually released to becoming a slugger with the Detroit Tigers. He's been to the All-Star game, basically because of the change in this philosophy. Wallenbrock's also worked with Matt Joyce, Jason Castro, Chris Taylor's having a breakout year with the Dodgers. He's one of his clients as well. So this is something that we're going to be asking more about when it comes to seeing numbers going up, especially in slugging. But the fact that this seemed like such a major league story and it's now trickling down is just kind of fascinating to me in terms of a minor league angle.
Here's the thing that I have sort of distilled as my thought on this subject. When you were a kid and you're learning how to play the sport of baseball, if you pitch, you're told get hitters to hit the ball on the ground. If you hit, in large part, you're told hit the ball hard and hit it on the ground. Those two things can't coexist. They're conflicting ideologies. If you are a pitcher and you are a hitter, you cannot have the same philosophy because one of those is going to be wrong. So it makes so much intuitive sense. If you're a hitter, why would you want to buy into that? Why? I mean, my entire life playing baseball, that's what I was always told. Swing hard on a downhill plane, hit the top half of the ball, hit it on the ground. That's exactly what a pitcher is trying to get you to do. So those two conflicting schools of thought, which are the same school of thought, they can't coexist. You can't have two opposing sides have the same exact theory on how to be successful because you're trying to defeat the other one. You know what I mean? And that's something that I haven't really ever considered until this conversation came up a few years ago when I talked with Chris Bryantstad about it. That to me was the first time that I had ever thought about that in that context. And it just doesn't make any sense. If you're a hitter, that you would think to yourself, I'm going to do exactly what this guy wants me to do. I'm just going to try to do it better and in a way that doesn't actually help him succeed. It doesn't make sense.
And not only that, it's just kind of, I hesitate to say it's science, but it's also just kind of instinct that if you are going to be hitting the ball on the ground, the first thing it's going to do when it hits the ground is slow down. And it's going to be so much easier for the opposing team to get. Even if it's an amazing diving play, if you've ever played the infield, if you ever played at pretty much any position in the outfield, outside catcher, you know how difficult it is to catch a line drive compared to a ground ball. Even if you have to cover a lot of distance, the fact that it is on the ground is giving you a chance as a fielder. Getting the ball in the air, yes, that same idea. If it's super high up there, it's going to be easier to catch. Whether you're infielder or outfielder or whatever. But if you're going up there with the philosophy of I am going to, at bare minimum, aim for a line drive here, you're giving yourself a much better chance at a hit than just trying to poke it through the infield however you can.
I just want to quote Mike Bryant. This is one of my favorite quotes, and this is before Chris Bryant broke in. It was when he was a household name, definitely in the system, but he wasn't yet the guy at the major league level that everybody was talking about as being one of the best players in baseball. And this was his father's philosophy on this. He said, quote, every kid that plays this game from the time they're bright-eyed and pick up the bat for the first time, they all dream about hitting home runs. If you're teaching them anything else, you're crushing their dreams. You know what it's like to hit when you're a 6-year-old kid? Hit it over the fence. How do you do that? It comes back to the old Ted Williams approach to hitting, which is hit it hard and hit it in the air. What's being taught to the kids, they just talk about hitting it on the ground, swinging down on the ball, hitting the top of the ball, all that stuff. It never made any sense to me. And it is sort of interesting that we've, as a society, been playing this game for a long time, and the greatest hitter, the greatest pure hitter of all time, arguably Ted Williams, had an entirely different approach to hitting the baseball than virtually anybody else who had gone before or has come since. And yet it took us a long time after his playing days were over for people to be like, oh yeah, maybe we should take a longer look at this.
Right. Well, I mean, it's also easier said than done. We have to kind of.
That's true. You do have to be kind of a physical freak to be Joey Gallo or be Chris Bryant. That's true.
Right. Yeah. And it's also, I brought up Daniel Murphy before. One of the stories about Tim Tebow was that he worked with Daniel Murphy a bunch. I think they live next to each other. They're neighbors or something.
Right.
In Florida, outside Jacksonville, I think. And it was always, Murphy would give Tebow hitting tips, and one of those hitting tips was always, you're giving yourself a better chance if you hit it in the air, so just try to do that. And Tebow's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tim Tebow right now is averaging 3.93 ground balls per fly ball this year. That is the highest ground ball to fly ball rate in the minor leagues.
Wow.
So even he understands this. And again, physical freak. Lord knows we all can acknowledge that. Physical freak has this approach. It's not exactly working. So it needs to be all the things kind of coming together in terms of making that happen. So, if that's, a discussion about Tebow, we can have a different time. But not only is it just the approach, it's that you have to have the tools to make this happen. And some of these guys like Gallo, Cumberland, Bryant, JD Martinez, whatever, they have the tools and they're putting them to use. So it's not like anybody out there now is just like, oh, yeah, no, I guess I hit fly balls. I, too, can be a double-A player. No, that's not true. You have to have the skills as well. And that's why this approach works better than it does with others.
I'm going to go all metaphysical and weird on you for a minute, but this is really, it's almost 150 years since the very first professional baseball game was ever played, and we still get to find ways to watch this sport evolve. That's one of the things that I love most about the game of baseball. It seems so cut and dry. It seems so basic. It seems so much like something that we've sort of tapped out everything that you can do in the game of baseball. It's a continuously evolving organism. I find that so fascinating. You can see that in any sport, but when it happens in baseball, there's such intricacy to it that I love it. And this is really neat to see this take hold. It's just a groundswell of this movement across the game of baseball right now. I don't know if we've seen a change to something as fundamental as the basic philosophy of hitting among a massive percentage of Major League Baseball players. And this isn't a majority by any stretch, but the fact that so many people are buying into this right now, and so many people across the Major League and minor league level are deciding, yeah, I'm going to try to tweak myself a little bit and see how this serves me, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think it almost goes hand in hand really well with just the amount of data we have now.
Right.
I go back to I got all this from Fangraphs. It's all out there. StatCast is out there. Trackman is out there. All that kind of stuff. I talked to some farm directors this spring about how much are you guys using this, and they say we have it on everybody. Sometimes we give it to the player. It depends on the player whether they're gonna if they think they're gonna work well with that kind of additional info or not, whatever. But it's there now in ways that it wasn't, in Ted Williams' day. Ted Williams was a freak not only of the body but of the mind. It wouldn't surprise me if he kept track of how many ground balls and how many fly balls he hit every day. But otherwise, this stuff was difficult to kind of keep track of until now. And the fact that it is being put into place in the way it is just another tool that makes this game such a great one, and why we're in it and why we keep following it and trying to find these next tools to see what these guys are using to get better every day.
Yeah, the accessibility and the influence of the data and the video and all that kind of stuff is really cool, and it's really changing the sport that we love, and in a really good way. I think if you don't move, to quote the old Woody Allen movie, a shark that doesn't move forward dies, to paraphrase, I should say, not quote. And you don't want to have a dead shark on your hands if you're a sport, and so it's pretty cool to see the way that things continue changing in the game of baseball. And with that, we'll put a wrap on Three Strikes for this week's edition of the show before the show. And coming up, we're going to head to the Milwaukee Brewers organization and the AAA Colorado Springs Sky Sox, where we'll find Brandon Woodruff, who has put together a very impressive start to the season on the mound for a really impressive rotation and a really impressive roster with AAA Colorado Springs. Brandon Woodruff of the Milwaukee Brewers organization joins the show coming up next. We are headed down I-25 from where I currently hang out. It's so rare that we get to do a visit with somebody who is in the Centennial State, and I feel very cool about being joined by somebody who is the closest geographic affiliation to half of our podcast on a weekly basis. Brandon Woodruff with the Colorado Springs Sky Sox joins the show, one of the top-ranked prospects in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, number 8 in the system, and off to a terrific start in AAA. Brandon, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm just gonna make that all about me, apparently, the intro. But this start to the year for you has been in Colorado Springs, a relatively new affiliation in the Brewers organization, and has really been a theme. I mean, the reason I bring that up is because people have talked a lot about that this year as it pertains to your pitching staff and how successful you guys have been so far this season. And Brandon's start to the year through 10 starts has been terrific. A 6-3 record and a 3.04 ERA. ERA in your first full season at the AAA level, and that includes a lot of work at home. 6 of those starts have been at home. You got an ERA under 3.5 at home, and your staff as a whole has been fantastic this year. A staff ERA of 4.27, and that's been one of the things people have really discussed. It's maybe the most hostile environment for pitchers in minor league baseball. Hasn't really seemed to affect you guys. What's it been like so far this year for your group?
Coming in, you hear all the horror stories, I guess you could say. And I think, just coming in, it's more of a mental thing. I think you just really got to come in to Colorado and just really take the bull by the horns and just attack it, and not be scared to pitch your game. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that has helped me pitch there. And that's, I'm a fastball heavy guy. I like to use my fastball. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that has helped me there. And, just getting ahead with that and, pitching off that. And, sometimes your off speed doesn't always work as good as you would like it to. And, but you can't let that affect you and what you're trying to do and the game plan you have that day. But, as the whole staff, I think we've worked good together. We talk a lot, about the elements. Some days when the wind is blowing out at Colorado Springs, it's, it makes for a very tough day. A lot of things can happen. Pop-ups to go out, and next thing you know, you're giving up 5 runs, and you don't even know what really happened. But it's one of the things of just staying mentally strong and trying to take it one pitch at a time. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've done this year at Colorado, and and taking that with me on the road as well. And I think that's another, as a staff, we've done a pretty good job of it, and that's I think that's what's helped us pitch pretty well up to this point.
Brandon, for you guys as a group, is there much communication from the organization as to the fact that you're going to be pitching in such a hitter-friendly environment? It sort of made sense when the Colorado Springs Sky Sox were an affiliate of the Colorado Rockies, because you're going to have to pitch at a difficult hitter's park at the major league level. But for you guys, it doesn't really come into play. It doesn't come into play throughout the minor leagues at the other levels, maybe to an extent in Helena, I guess, in the Pioneer League where there's a lot of offense. But you kind of jump out of the norm and out of the mainstream for the final step in the minor leagues. Does the organization communicate about that at all, or is it just kind of the things you have to do to be successful there, the things you have to be successful everywhere?
Yeah, that's true. You hear about it. A lot of people in the organization talk about it. They say, this is a tough place to play, and they might not necessarily look into your numbers a whole lot, and I guess they might look into certain factors. But yeah, I think one of the only other tests was Helena, and some of the other places have been a pitcher-friendly league. But like I said, it's just a mindset and the way you go about it, and come into each and every outing and pitch there. You try not to change yourself. You just go in and try to pitch your game.
And one thing I want to talk about with you, Brandon, was not only, are you going into the PCL, which is a hitter's league, and then, as Tyler talked about, Colorado Springs is a hitter's park, but you're also at AAA. This is your first time there. You're one step away from the majors, in a Brewer system that has a lot of AAA talent. Between yourself, Lewis Brinson, Josh Hader, we could keep going. What was your kind of approach coming into this year, knowing you are one step away, and this is kind of an audition for the majors almost every start you make?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Once you get to this level, it's definitely a step up from AA, that's for sure, because a lot of the hitters are they're on into their careers. So a lot of the hitters have big league time, and so when it comes to their approach and what they're trying to do at the plate, it's they're good hitters, and this league doesn't make it any easier to pitch into some of the ballparks. But I think just being able to pitch, if you can pitch in this league and kind of weather the storm and handle some of those hitters, and I think that just prepares you for the big leagues. And I think that's what we've done as a whole staff so far, is just kind of went into the year and tried to just go out and pitch to the best of our ability.
And in terms of you like you said, this is a much different level from AA. The hitters are much different from AA. what was your kind of wake up moment this year in which you realized, okay, this is going to take another step of me to get these guys out?
Yeah, for sure. I think I can take a start back to might have been my third start against Memphis. It was at Colorado. This was the second time I pitched there, and the wind was blowing out. And I go in and my pitches weren't working just the way I wanted them to. Some of the guys were laying off some really good pitches, and it's like, man, I got to get something going on here. And then, boom, next thing you know, I leave one over the plate, and there goes a 3-run homer, and it's like, okay, you got to really just lock in and really focus on each and every pitch, because these guys can hit, and you got to be sharp, and especially pitching at Colorado, you got to really just be on top of your game at all times, because things can kind of spiral pretty quick. But then again, I know hitting's hard too, and if you can get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you can be in the Hall of Fame. And so that's the way I try to approach it, is just go in and attack each guy. And sometimes they're going to hit some balls hard, but they'll go to some people, and you'll get them out. But so I think that's kind of been, my approach, is just coming in against, this different level of competition, is just going in and attacking guys and, letting your defense play.
And I kind of want to take you back to last year. Not only, did that kind of set you up for this year to be able to tackle AAA, but I think last year was a season when, you weren't only just catching attention from Brewers fans and followers of that Milwaukee system, but just kind of nationally with the season you put together. You had a 2.68 ERA, struck out 173 batters between Class A Advanced Brevard County and AA Biloxi. Last year, kind of take me through last year, and when was the moment where it felt like last year was going to be a special year for you?
I went back to Brevard and repeated, and coming out of spring training, I felt like I wanted to go to AA, obviously, and start there, but there were some things I needed to take care of, and that was just being able to command the ball just a little bit better, and I proved that right off the bat in Brevard, and once I showed the organization that, I went to AA, and the first few starts in AA weren't, the way I wanted them to go, but then there was a game where, I told myself, this is the same game. This is it's not going to change. The hitters, the competition might be a little bit better, but it's not going to change the way I go about my business. And once I realized that, and realized I just needed to pitch my game, things started to take off. And you like to strike people out, but that's not what you like to do coming into the games. You like to throw 9 innings and 90 pitches, I guess you could say. And the strikeouts, they happen, and I guess last to just have a bunch of them come. So.
Brandon, let's go back a little bit further than that. You were a draft pick out of Mississippi State University in 2014, and 3 years prior to that, drafted by the Texas Rangers coming out of high school. But you go off to college, and your college days were kind of a mixture. You pitched in relief some, you pitched as a starter some, you dealt with some injury stuff. In total, you made 18 starts in your college career out of 34 appearances. And when you look back on those days now, and you look at jumping into pro ball, you get in 2014 in your rookie season with Helena in the Pioneer League. The steps that you've taken since then, you've gone from a guy with a college career that left some people with questions as to how you were going to be as a professional, whether a starter, whether a reliever, whatever it was, and now you're one of the top prospects in one of the best systems in minor league baseball. What do you think, if you could talk to yourself in 2014 when you were coming into pro ball, from your perspective now, what was the moment that you really felt like things started to pivot and you knew, all right, I'm going to be able to do this at the professional level?
Yeah, that's whatever happened, in college, that happened. That was the best decision I ever made, and was going there and playing at Mississippi State. I had the time of my life, and coming out, that's just something I had to do. I knew my abilities. I was hurt at school. I didn't get to throw that much, and I didn't get to showcase, what my abilities were, and I knew deep down, really what I could do. And I just had to get out in pro ball and get it going. And, like I said earlier, the game is tough, and I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. And, that's just using my stuff to get ahead and just get, hitters out as quick as I can. But coming into 2014, I just had to get out, and I knew when I was in college, I put a lot of guys on base by walking them and giving a lot of guys free passes. And, once I stepped foot in Helena, I kind of just started over and kind of just told myself to, just to fill up the zone and just see what would happen. And I think over time, as, my career has progressed, I've started to throw the ball over the plate a lot more. I've cut down the walk, and, that's kind of led to getting guys out and going deeper in games. And the numbers start to show up. And, if I think I could, tell myself what to expect is just to come in and know what you can do and just go in and attack guys. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned over my career thus far is never backing down and just going right at people.
And while we're on the topic of college, we might as well bring this up. The D1 baseball bracket just came out this week. How far do you think your Mississippi State Bulldogs can make it this year? I think they're a 2 seed in their regional, Southern Miss regional. What are you thinking about them going into the tournament?
Oh yeah, I keep up with them all the time, and that's going to be a tough regional, but I think it's good for. Of course, I would love for them to be hosting, but it's good for the state of Mississippi to have another host site down in Hattiesburg, and that's going to be a tough regional. They've got a really good offense, led by Rooker and Jake Mangum and a few other guys. And if they can just get hot at the right time, I think that they can make a run at it.
And, speaking of teams that are kind of hot and making runs, one thing I want to touch on with you is just right now, the Brewers, the major league team, is kind of surprising everybody as we're talking. They're first place in the NL Central. They're beating out the Cubs, the Cardinals. I think they're a game and a half ahead of the Cubs right now for that lead. When the major league team is having this type of success, especially for a team that was expected to kind of be rebuilding, what kind of trickle-down effect is there for you guys in the minors, specifically at AAA, where you guys you're one step away from helping a team that is right now a division leader? I know Colorado Springs, you guys, I think, are leading your division as well. What is that trickle-down effect like from the majors down when the major league team is having this level of success?
Yeah, for sure. The front office has done a good job of building a deep system, and obviously, they've made some good moves in the off season to help the big league club, and I think they're all starting to come together. As you know, they're in first place, but that's pretty cool. If your team's in first and you get the opportunity to get your name called, and whoever goes up, and just to be able to help the big league team out and try to help them win games is that could be a blast. With a team in first place and just going up there and helping them win. That's a fun time to be a Brewer, and just to go up there and help those guys win. And try to win a division title, and that would be really, really fun.
And talking about going up and helping that team out. I mean, you're on a team right now with a couple guys who have major league experience. I know Paolo Espino was up there for a little bit. When guys come back down, or there are guys who have had that major league experience, how much are you picking their brains to see what that's like, to know what that call could potentially be like? I mean, you never know until you actually get it, but how much are you kind of taking notes for when it potentially comes?
Yeah, you always try to pick guys' brains and take notes, and I know that was a awesome experience for Espino, getting to go up and make his debut at Wrigley Field, and we were all pulling for him, and that's the thing when guys go up or whatever it may be, and we're always cheering for him. I know Eric Sogard was with us, and he went up, I guess about a month in or whatever it was, and he's been tearing it up ever since, and we've been trying to catch much action as we can in clubhouse and just cheering for those guys. And, anytime that we can talk to some guys that has the big league experience, it's always good. And, it's always, helpful, hopefully helpful for, us minor leaguers, hoping to make their major league debuts.
He is Brandon Woodruff, the Milwaukee Brewers right-hander and the 8th-ranked prospect in the Milwaukee system with AAA Colorado Springs. You can follow Brandon on Twitter. He is at B_Woody24. And Brandon, we can't thank you enough for the time, and enjoy the beginning of summer out here in the Pacific Coast League, and we really appreciate it, man. Best of luck.
Thank y'all. Thank you very much.
Brandon Woodruff, our guest from the Milwaukee Brewers organization. You can, again, find him on Twitter at B_Woody24. And a big thanks to him for joining us from the AAA Colorado Springs Sky Sox. And with that, we'll pivot to talk a little bit about the business of baseball with our buddy Benjamin Hill, who is we got a whole lot to talk about. We've had an extensive pre-conversation debate about some things in our conversation today that I'm very excited to get to. Hi, Ben.
You're excited about that, Tyler?
I'm excited about. We're going to talk about fidget spinners in a minute because that's a weird thing that's going on. But first, we're gonna talk about the main thing in promo watch this week, which is really, really cool. The Louisville Bats, the AAA affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds in Louisville, Kentucky, are staging Muhammad Ali Appreciation Night on the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Muhammad Ali, who was a Louisville native. Of course, early in his career, his nickname was the Louisville Lip, a legend in that area. I had never been to Louisville before. I went there earlier this year, and the amount of streets and buildings and things that are named after Muhammad Ali, it's really, really cool. But this is a very comprehensive promo night to honor the memory of Muhammad Ali with the baseball team in his hometown. Tell us about it.
Right. Well, when you saw streets named after him, were any of them named Muhammad Ali?
No, I didn't see any of those. Wah, wah.
Just didn't go to the right part of town then, because that must exist.
I guess
somewhere.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Could be.
Anyhow, Tyler, to get back to your main point, yes, on the 1-year anniversary, this coming Saturday, June 3rd, it's the 1-year anniversary of Muhammad Ali's passing, and the Bats are having Muhammad Ali Appreciation Night, and that sort of served as the spark for what is now a citywide festival that, in conjunction with the Ali Center, which is obviously based in Louisville, a foundation to promote his life's work and the 6 core principles that he lived by. So this is the kickoff event for an extensive celebration of Ali throughout Louisville, and one that I imagine will continue in years to come. And we love visuals, even on podcasts with no visuals. We love to talk about visuals, and they got great theme jerseys. Well, the greatest theme jerseys.
Course,
even I won't. That's a little too obvious, but really great theme jerseys. Muhammad Ali, close-up of his face, a side profile on the front, a butterfly on the back with Ali over the butterfly, and so great visual there. Obviously, some philanthropic elements. I mean, the jerseys themselves go to the Muhammad Ali, the Ali Center, and they'll have special guests at the ballpark. And in talking to the team, they said a lot of people are coming out of town for this. Obviously, not just the game, but to commemorate the anniversary of his death, to take part in other citywide celebrations, and to visit his gravesite, because when he died, there wasn't the full, gravestone up yet. And now, as you'd expect someone of that magnitude, people are making pilgrimages to his gravesite. And so just for years and years to come, as there has been when he was alive, a lot of interest in Muhammad Ali, and Louisville is ground zero for Muhammad Ali appreciation, because that's where he's from. So real cool promo from the Bats. That's what you look for in a good promo. It has, a lot of appeal, a local connection, a great visual, a charitable element. So something that seems poised to continue for years to come.
And one thing I wanted to ask about, just because, again, it's probably not the best thing to ask on radio like this, but you mentioned in the story the first 2,000 fans receive an Ali-themed Bats cap. Do you know exactly what that's going to look like?
No, I haven't seen that, but you think they give away boxer shorts?
You would think. I don't know. Would you think that?
Would you think that? Would you think that? It's not just that,
though. Buddy the Bat is going to be wearing stuff too.
Yeah. Buddy the Bat has oversized boxing gloves that the Everlast company made specially for him, so that's pretty cool. And the hats I haven't seen a visual yet, but they're going to be tied into the Bats and Muhammad Ali. So they will have that element. And unfortunately, I can't even describe them for you. I like to think of people listening to this podcast just sort of luxuriating in our words and having a mental picture come into their heads that once they see the picture, it almost corresponds exactly with what we described to them. Right. But we cannot do that in the case of this Muhammad Ali cap.
Sorry, they can fill in their own imaginations. Or if anybody's going this weekend to the game, let us know. Take a picture and tag us, in a tweet or something. Show us what the caps look like. 'Cause I'm legitimately interested.
Absolutely. And in general, when we talk about anything on this show, we love to hear from listeners. And if you experience directly something we're talking about, get in touch. We'll probably talk about it next week. And we'd love to see how your experiences coincide or cohere or line up with what we're talking about.
Not just the gloves either. There's Everlast made a gigantic mascot-sized robe, a white robe with black trim for Buddy too, which is pretty cool. So that'll be a really neat night in Louisville, which is coming up and is previewed in this week's edition of Promo Watch. Okay, let's get into this thing. The Myrtle Beach Pelicans, a Class A advanced affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, announced that they will be doing fidget spinner Fridays for the remainder of the season. I had not heard of fidget spinners until like 10 days ago, and now I've seen and heard of them everywhere. What? I get there's a point to these, I guess, they relieve stress or they do something, but what's going on here?
Well, I don't have a fidget spinner yet. I think I should definitely get one. They're definitely all the rage among elementary school kids, but adults apparently like them as well. They're the slap bracelets of 2017. And probably, in 20 years, there'll be a salute to the whatever decade we're in night. What do you call this decade?
I don't know. The second decade of the aughts. The aught teens?
Yeah. Whatever. We'll have, salute to the aught teens night in 20 years, and they'll be giving away fidget spinners. And people will be like, remember fidget spinners? That was amazing. That was before the world was on fire. And I'll have good memories. And I highlighted the Pelicans in Promo Watch because they are doing it every single Friday for the remainder of the year, but a bunch of teams have started giving away fidget spinners, and like so many things in pop culture, I found out about it through minor league baseball. I feel like I'd be at least a decade older pop culture-wise, pop culture knowledge, if it wasn't for this job. But there was a day, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, when about 3 press releases in the span of an hour came through, all announcing fidget spinners. And at first I was like, what is that? It was the Williamsport Crosscutters announcing an opening day.
A team that doesn't even
they haven't even started yet, but they were announcing an opening day fidget spinner giveaway. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And then I think the Fort Myers Miracle came in with one, and then the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. So within a very short amount of time, it was like, this is a thing now. And that's a great benefit of following minor league baseball from the promotional side, is that you're always kind of up on these sort of trends. What is taking America by storm? And in this case, it's a fidget. It's a fidget. It's a fidget spinner. Fidget spinner.
Nicely done.
Well, with something like this, because the picture or the tweet you included from the Pelicans just has all these different types of colors and all this stuff. I know in terms of theme jerseys, there's companies that kind of push this kind of stuff to teams, saying, "Listen, we can be the team that supplies you with your star. We already have all this stuff ready to go." Do you think this is one of those situations where there's just a fidget spinner company knowing that this is a branding opportunity for teams and just sending it blanket out?
That's a good question. In this case, I don't know. I don't know if teams are all going through the same supplier. I've gotten spam emails recently, from China in broken English, saying, ma'am or sir, we are your fidget spinner supplier, et cetera. So who knows where they're getting them from. But these fidget spinners are everywhere, including at your local minor league ballpark. And if, the kids aren't distracted enough at a minor league game, now they have fidget spinners.
There you go.
It's something. I guess it's something. One of those things you have to add to your brain and understand when you see them out with people now, which has happened with frightening regularity ever since I first heard of them. That's how these things happen with trends, I guess. One other thing that catches my eye, and then we're going to talk about a big moment in the Benjamin Hill world, which we discussed a little bit last week. But one thing that jumped out, the Akron Rubber Ducks on June 3rd will be having a celebrity appearance from Megan Cavanaugh, who you will know as Marla Hooch from A League of Their Own, and they're having fireworks that night. I've always wondered with characters like that, Megan Cavanaugh was hired and put in A League of Their Own, and the entire shtick for her in that movie was that she could hit, but her physical appearance was roundly mocked throughout the entire film. I've always wondered, like, Megan Cavanaugh, I'm sure, is laughing all the way to the bank for the last 25 years, and that's great, and that's good for her, but I feel like I want to give her a hug. I feel bad about that. That doesn't seem like anything that was very cool for A League of Their Own to have done to poor Megan Cavanaugh.
Tyler, I haven't really thought this through the way you have.
I always think about this on TV.
Right.
TV and movies, yeah.
I believe you should go to Akron and give her a hug. I would love to see that moment. And she'd be like,
Marla, hooch.
So, I think that's all you. But if not just Tyler, but if anyone is in the Akron
somebody
area
in Akron
and
would
like
that.
to, if not hug her, I don't know, what the
I don't know, maybe not.
protocols are here. But if at least meet her, perhaps shake her hand, probably get an autograph or a picture.
Get her thoughts on this.
Thoughts
exactly.
on the matter.
That's what I would like. I would just like somebody to ask, like, how did that feel? It's been 25 years. You doing all right?
Right, and that's on June 3rd, so you have your chance. And FYI,
somebody do it.
During Kentucky on June 3rd, you can go to Muhammad Ali night in Louisville. So take your pick, Midwest. Go see Megan Cavanaugh or pay tribute to Muhammad Ali.
Pretty cool. All right, I'm going to let Sam intro this last topic because it's a cool one, and I believe Sam has actually seen these things in person, which I have not yet.
Right, well, this is more just like checking in a week later. Last week we talked about the new Top series involving Ben, the inserts that are going into the minor league series that Topps is doing. But 1 week later, you've made the announcement. Everybody knows about it now. What has the reaction kind of been like across the minor league landscape, into which everything you're plugged into?
Well, it's been awesome. There is a Ben's Biz insert set, as I've talked about, as we've talked before. A 15-card Ben's Biz insert set in the 2017 Topps Pro Debut set, which premiered a week ago from the moment we're speaking now on May 24th. And those 15 cards highlight various things I've seen in my travels. So they are some very strange baseball cards. I think unprecedented in a lot of ways. Whether unprecedented is a good thing is in the eye of the beholder in this case. But it's been awesome, not just among the industry and among people on Twitter, among friends and family. My job is such that people are like, oh, you're a baseball writer. That's a cool job. But it's not the sort of job that has any sort of real benchmarks in terms of like you got this promotion or you graduated with this degree or you did this or that. So on a personal level, it has sort of served as a nice benchmark for me professionally, because now 2017 is the year I got my own Topps baseball cards, which is amazing because 30 years ago, I was obsessed with Topps cards, absolutely obsessed, as I think I mentioned last week. And they were really huge in my development as a baseball fan. So to work with the company as an adult and have those cards is amazing. So on my blog, Ben's Biz blog, bensbiz.mlblogs.com, I'm doing a 15-part blog series, one for every card. And so the first 3 are up as we speak right now. Number 1, Toastman in West Virginia. Number 2, Eric the Peanut Guy of the Tri-City Dust Devils. Number 3, the only card really directly featuring me throwing out a toilet paper first pitch at a Wisconsin Timber Rattlers game. And if you'd like me to sign that card, get in touch with me on Twitter or whatever. I'm not jaded with autographs. Every time someone has asked me, which has been like 4 times, and sometimes, as Sam knows, hasn't asked me, I just do it. It's so cool to take a Sharpie and sign my own baseball card.
I did ask for the record.
Thank you. A lot of people, I just signed it and gave it to them, like they wanted it or not. But stay tuned for more posts. We'll talk about it in future weeks. If you really do some digging, you can see all the cards now. But I'll keep doing individual posts on them, giving links to the stories that that I wrote at that time. And there's some real cool ones to talk about in the future. Some real strange stuff and stuff I'm really proud of. So, Ben's Biz Baseball Cards 2017 Topps Pro Debut. It is awesome. Thank you, Topps. Thank you, everyone who is. This is not an acceptance speech, but I kind of feel like it.
bensbiz.mlblogs.com is the blog, and Benjamin Hill is on Twitter. He is at bensbiz there, and you can keep up with all the developments on the cards and everything else throughout the business world of minor league baseball. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam, too. I always say thanks to just you, Tyler, because you say thanks, Ben, usually, but thanks to Sam as well, in addition to Tyler.
Oh, well, thank you.
And thank you both. Finishing up this week's edition, the final edition of the month of May of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. Tyler Ron, Sam Dykstra. Sam, what are you watching on MILB TV this week?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that game we talked about with Ben just a mere minutes ago for those of you listening, but a while ago for us. That game this Saturday in Louisville, not only just for the Muhammad Ali jerseys, but really, like, that's another thing about MILB.TV that I don't think we talk about too much in terms of, yeah, you get to see all these promotions play out as well. It's not just about the product on the field in terms of players and teams and whatever, but you also get to see some of these things kind of come through. So get a chance to see what those jerseys look like, how they wear them, how they kind of come across, in person. But not only that, that game is just going to be fascinating because it also features not only the Louisville Bats, but also the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. An hour ago from right about when we started this podcast, the MILB Twitter account tweeted that the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs are 23-5 in May, which is just nuts. I mean, that's crazy how hot that team has gotten. We talked about Rhys Hoskins before, how legitimate he looks this year, how major league ready he basically is at this point. Jorge Alfaro has been really, really good these first 2 months, not only at the plate but behind the plate. We sent out a GIF this week, if you can find it, of him just gunning down a runner at second base. So he's not only been a good offensive force, but a good defensive force. J.P. Crawford is really coming around in impressive ways. As of us talking about this on Wednesday, he has 2 hits in each of his last 4 games, going 2 for 4, 2 for 4, 2 for 2, with 2 walks, and then 2 for 4 again. He really seems like he's coming around, performing at the offensive capabilities we thought he had. So not only is that game Saturday night going to be Muhammad Ali night in Louisville, but it's also going to feature one heck of a Lehigh Valley team. The pitching probables aren't out for that game yet. Can't really tell you what to look forward to in terms of matchups there. But no matter what, you're going to want to watch this Lehigh Valley team, whether you're a Phillies prospect fan or not. It's just going to be a fascinating evening, I think, down in Louisville. So that's my pick. What about
we very rarely get to go to the California League for our picks. There's only a few teams in that league that do MILB.TV telecasts at home, but the San Jose Giants are one of them. And on Thursday night, June 1st, so the day that you will be listening to this, if you pick up on day number 1, if you want some MILB After Dark, Jacob Nix, who is the 5th-ranked prospect in the San Diego Padres organization, he was just activated from the disabled list, started the season in extended spring training. Just activated on May 26th. He made his first start of the year against Visalia that day, allowed 2 runs on 7 hits over 5 innings. He'll make his second start of the season coming up on the road at San Jose on Thursday, June 1st. So again, if you get this on day 1 that it is out, you can check out that broadcast at MILB.TV and take a look at Jacob Nix. You might remember that name. He was the Astros 5th-round pick in 2014 when the deal fell through with Brady Aiken, and due to the reduced signing pool money that the Astros had, they couldn't afford the deal to which they had agreed with Jacob Nix. So Nix was kind of sent back through the hopper. He went to the IMG Academy. He actually bumped his draft stock up 2 rounds. He was taken in the 5th round by the Astros in 2014, 3rd round by the Padres in 2015. But the Astros, they were very high on him, and the Padres now are very, very high on Jacob Nix. And the 6'4", 220-pound right-hander will take the hill against the San Jose Giants coming up on Thursday night. So that's it. I guess that's it. Right, Sam?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's a good packed podcast.
Loaded it up this week.
Hopefully that's enough for to tide everybody over till next week, when I think we'll start a little bit of draft talk next week. So that'll be fun.
And I won't have any more Bill Belichick complaints. More than likely. It's possible.
That
it's
you
possible.
know of.
Yeah.
That you know of. You could go to your local grocery store.
Maybe he'll just be in there. I'll go, oh, look who it is. Guy who wouldn't talk to me. Cool.
And he'll just grunt something and walk away.
And he'll still be wearing the sweatshirt. Hey, Sam Dasha. I'm Tyler Mom. We'll talk to you next week.